Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffery Combs.
Jeffery Combs on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Welcome, everyone. When I say beautiful Tuesday afternoon, it is absolutely summer-like weather in Northern California. Welcome to Facebook Live on the last Tuesday of, is today the last Tuesday? Today will be, the last Tuesday of February 2021. So this is the last Golden Mastermind Seminar. It's called Brian Dillon. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. Jeffrey Feldman, welcome to Facebook Live. Jeffrey, I booked a couple of clubhouses on Thursday, one with Carl Italiano, and I also booked one with Eric Lofholm. Haley Turner, good to see you this afternoon. Kate Grace, welcome this afternoon. Myrna, welcome this afternoon. Some great coaching clients and friends here. Brian, how did you hear of me? Welcome to today's Facebook Live. Today's Facebook Live, the topic is mentoring consciousness. Being a mentor, being aware, understand, taking your leadership to the next level, being able to do one-on-one with people, whether that's in a 12-step program, in a church environment, in a Christian situation, or in real estate, networking, direct sales, or as an employer, mentoring your employees. I spend a lot of time mentoring my millionaire mentor, Dylan Albernson. And so I have a program where I have a young man who works for me, usually for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they tend to go off and start their own businesses. So if you're here today on Facebook Live, welcome everyone. In Northern California, where I live, which is 40 miles below Sacramento and about 70 miles straight east of San Francisco, it is summer-like weather, and I do mean summer-like weather. It is shorts weather, and that's one of the byproducts of living where I live. I know many of you also experience that in certain states, and my condolences for any of you who are living in states that have been absolutely hammered by weather. We will all say a prayer for you and bring our great country back together. Tracy Wilford, good to see you this afternoon. Myrna, thank you for bringing Brian to today's call. Kevin Mayberry, welcome. And if you're not following Kate Grace, please follow Kate. She is on today's Facebook Live. She has a Let Go group. And if you'd like to join her Facebook group on Letting Go, I highly endorse it. I am Kate's coach and have been assisting her with the skills of letting go for the last going on 2 years now. So welcome to Facebook Live. Let's move into the inspirational portion of today's content. So we have leadership and we have mentoring. There are similarities but distinct differences. In leading, you lead by example. In leading, leadership is influence. Mentoring is a higher level of influence. Mentoring is when you have more one-on-one time with someone, when you have a vested interest, when it is you're doing one-on-one coaching with someone, or you take someone that you have a special interest in, or in a 12-step program, you're there to really empower and assist them. And you're their sponsor in a 12-step program. I've been mentoring people since the early 90s. When I had a network marketing business, I would handpick a few of my best leaders and best teammates, and I would bring them in for a mastermind alliance group. And in that mastermind, we would spend quality time, one-on-one time, getting to know each other, but looking for common qualities. Masterminding means one or more coming together of like mind for common purposes. And in that state of mentoring, in that state of bringing a mastermind together, I was able to create connections with people, very deep connections. And some of these people have stayed in my life throughout a number of years. In my own coaching practice, I've been coaching for 23 years, and some of my clients show up on my Facebook Lives from 20 plus years ago, and I've developed intimate relationships with them. So mentoring is a much more intimate relationship than leading is, because you lead by example. That means that your example that you lead by should be exemplary. You don't ever ask anyone to do what you're not doing. But the mentoring process is a deeper interest. It's a deeper connection. It's more intimate, and it means that it's personal. Now, in that mentoring personal situation, there also requires to be detachment, because you're not responsible for anyone's outcome or anyone's successes. And as you become skilled at mentoring, as you become skilled at leading, so as you bring these two in together, it will greatly assist you in your ability to attract. But if your communication style says, I'm not good enough, I'm not sure if, I haven't had success, so how can I lead someone? My biggest problem is when I bring someone into a business, my business, what am I supposed to do with them? Well, you lead by example. That would be you lead. But if you really want to quantum leap that and go to the next level and develop a culture of quality, like-minded, then you fill in the blank, well, that becomes the mentoring role. And a mentor, once again, is someone who leads by example and gives good insight, deep insight on been there, done that, and are able to articulate it, communicate it, and be able to have a more personable relationship with someone. It's more eye level, it's more ground here. And so this is why in a 12-step program, it's recommended that you get a sponsor, and that sponsor often becomes a mentor. That mentor also learns to walk away from people, and you'll learn this yourself. Because there are people who put their hand up and they say, I want this, I'll do this. But as you lead by example and as you are there for people, and if they're not there with you, so you match people's energy in mentoring. But you're going to find that many people, their mouth opens, they say they're going to do something, but they don't follow through. And if that is the case, then you want to be able to let people go easily and effortlessly, diplomatically, without feeling the attachment to them. Hi, Joy. Good to see you in California. Dave King, good to see you. And Kathy, thank you for joining today's Facebook Live. And so it's important that you understand that detachment is a major component of mentoring because you're not responsible for other people's feelings, actions, and emotions. You are responsible for what you say and what you follow through on. And that's why it's an important communication and a relationship that you develop in a one-on-one mentoring program. Now you can do group calls, but when you really take someone off to the side and you put that extra time into them, you're grooming them, you're mentoring them, you're giving them time and energy for a specific purpose. Not only from the goodness from your heart, but to enhance the production or to be able to assist them with letting go of certain situations, to enhance their ability to let go of an addiction, any situations. And mentoring also comes off of feeling. It's like you feel something for someone, an affinity. But there's also important that you understand the boundaries of mentoring, that you're not attached by not setting people up to disappoint you, by not having expectations of people that they can't follow through on. And that's why your expectations must be real. If your expectations aren't real, there's a high probability that you will then sabotage the relationship or you will let them sabotage your relationship because of your attachment. So it's a healthy detachment that you develop in a one-on-one mentoring program. So my program that I do for my employees is called Millionaire Apprentice. I've been hosting that apprenticeship for about 15 years. So not only does someone travel with me, spend time with me in a working relationship, but I also spend time in this term grooming them. Now my assistant Dylan Albertson, I've been teaching him another business I have. I've been a sports and autograph collector for 20 plus years. And I have a very large 900 piece autograph collection and then hundreds and hundreds of sports cards, and he had an interest in it, and he's been learning from me, but I've also been teaching him the real inner game and where the real values are. And I've watched him. Now, this is something he's doing on his own. Just last night, he bought a couple thousand cards from some person's collection that he found in an online auction. And so that means he has already taken the next step, and he's taken what he's learned from me, and he's into the practical application. And that's what you're looking for. Someone who you give insight to, you spend quality time with, and they take the knowledge and turn that knowledge into a result, into application. Now, when you do that in a business's leverage, so if you're a real estate broker, or if you're an insurance broker, a network marketer, or you're doing branding and you have an affiliate program and you're mentoring people, well, there can be another win-win situation because there can be compensation involved in that. So you're teaching people how to create results through the results you've created. But if you're a chronic avoider, if you're chronically overwhelmed, if you're a procrastinator, then it's time that you mentor yourself. That means that you take that mirror and you turn it around at you, and that you follow some of your own guidelines, that you follow through on what you say you're going to follow through on. And you can't lead what you haven't done. This is the biggest fallacy in what happens to many coaches. Many coaches get certified, but they don't really have they have the knowledge, but it's the application. I mean, it's the application of being successful so that you can lead, guide, mentor, and teach others what you yourself are either learning or in process of learning. Scott Lucas, good to see you this afternoon. Josh, good to see you this afternoon. Yvonne and Debbie Fair, good to see you this afternoon. So in a mentoring program, there's also the protege. The protege is my protege is like the number one mentoree. That's someone that I have taken an interest in, but not, once again, a healthy interest, not an attached interest. Not a romance where I think, oh my God, this person's going to be so good. Because once you start creating the outcome before it happens, it's like putting a hex on someone. It's like putting too much pressure on them, and you don't want to be in a situation where you're doing that. You want to have a very relaxed energy with this mentoree. That's what I call it, mentoree, and then a higher level of it is a protege. It's someone who follows in the footsteps, someone who you lead by example. You're looking to see where they are, and they're following you. And not only following you, they're following your lead, and they're producing. They're highly productive in this protege process. I have a workshop I call the Quantum Protege event that I host. I used to host twice a year. It was called the Writer Speakers Protege Workshop. Then I've since changed it to the Protege Writers Quantum Workshop. And so that quantum is 2 + 2, that equals 16. Now, as you begin to let go, so letting go, when you're no longer the mind-body connection of the events that shape the feelings, as you are letting go of the cause that creates the effect, as you are letting go of being overwhelmed, and you move into the state where you really feel you deserve it, you desire to be mentored. And when you're mentored by someone, it's highly, highly imperative and important that you do what's suggested. Now, what many people do is they seek out a coach. Now, in coaching, there's different levels of coaching. I mean, I have certain clients that have coached with me for years. They've been to hundreds of my events, or in the 20 plus 30, 40 of my events. They become a student of mine. They become a student of David Hawkins, and they really next level what I'm teaching them. And then these are the people that oftentimes I will ask to share the stages, speak on the clubhouses, speak in events. These are people that I consider to be highly teachable. They're groomable. They don't want to argue with me. They don't want to be right. They're much more in tune with learning the content. They're there. They don't but me. And not that they have to agree with everything, but if I'm devoting time and energy to someone, it's important that they be available and take that content and listen to it. Now, in my career, I've made multiple millions of dollars over a long, long career. So there's certain aspects that I know about free enterprise, businesses, sales, branding, marketing, 33 years of sobriety. So there's another niche that I'm very skilled at, and I can give people great insight on what is required to be and stay in recovery. And there's certain steps that I suggest people follow. Now, I'm not rigid about it, and it's not a have to do it, but there's situations that I suggest, and I'm very attentive to those who follow through on what I suggest. Now, there's many people who they'll hear it, but they don't understand the meaning. So they don't really take the context and put it into application. They're yeah, okay, sure, okay, yeah, and sure. So in coaching, I like to coach my clients a year or two if possible. Now, I understand people have different financial obligations and challenges, and they've been through situations, but in an ideal situation, I like to coach my clients 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many years it is. And it's not that there's a dependency, but there's a value. And if the value is great enough, people will find ways to be and stay sober, be and stay in a mentoring relationship, be and stay in a leadership program, be and stay successful. I mean, this really comes down to the individual and the commitment level. Now, when I'm looking for a protege mentoree, I'm looking for someone who's committed, someone who's going to be absolutely rock solid in their habits. They're going to suit up, they're going to show up, they're going to be on time. I'm not going to hear excuses, and they're going to follow through on what I suggest. provided that it's realistic. I don't ever set unrealistic goals for people. I'm not a pie in the sky person. I don't believe in having big goals and then settle for what you get. I suggest clearly defined short-term goals that you can commit to and follow up on. I oftentimes ask my client, can you go to bed sober tonight? Can you do this today? And I'll ask them to start and do like one-day projects, so that one-day project is what you or they build on. It's that one-day project that creates the emotional muscle. That's the repetition and experience of doing the same thing over and over, creating creating synergy and symmetry where the law of alignment comes together, and you are you and you are free. And as you start to move into that energy, that let go energy, as you move into that content, that knowledge, and you start to really understand the opportunity that's being given you. Now, I attracted great people in my teen and 20s, and I really wasn't in a place to take advantage of it. I modeled myself after a couple people, but I was so addicted to drugs and alcohol that I wasn't really able to capitalize on some of the great people in my circle of influence. I had the privilege of working for a multimillionaire right down the highway from me. His name was Harold Martin. He was a millionaire in land and he owned interest in a hospital and a bank in Omaha, Nebraska. I had the privilege of being his chauffeur for a short period of time. He had a Lincoln Mark V yellow Continental that I drove him to and from a hospital and a bank when I was a late teenager. And I worked for Mr. Martin up until I was about 20 years old. And on his very deathbed, he contacted me in the very last year of my drinking. He contacted my parents and asked me if I'd come visit him, and he wanted to talk to me, and he gave me $10,000 on his deathbed. I mean, what a man and he never had a son, so he told me I was a son he never had. Well, in reality, I was so ashamed of myself because he's a man I took advantage of. He was one of those men in my addictions that I would half-ass things, and when he was giving me this great content, I was in the fucking clouds somewhere else, romancing who I was going to be with that night or what I was going to drink or what I was going to do. But in reality, he was the first great man I ever attracted. And my number one protege is on today's Facebook Live, Mr. Joe DiBianca. Joe is that man I told you about earlier who has seen me speak over 100 times. He is my number one protege. Now, I've had people who went on to be multiple millionaires that I've coached, and that's good, but that doesn't mean that they were my top protege or my top mentoree. Joe has taken what I have offered him. I didn't give it to him. I offered it to him. He sat in the front row at multiple events of mine, he's seen me speak over 100 times. I believe it's 103 times. So he sat in that first seat in the front row every single time. He took notes. He didn't get up. He didn't leave the room. He paid attention, and then he got to speak at many of my events early in his career. He went on to become a multiple six-figure income earner, coach himself. He says he just spoke 115 times, but he's the number one mentoree. And then there's other people who are moving up into that state. Joe has since moved on. He doesn't require being my mentor. I'm not his mentor anymore. He's his mentor. And that's what it's about. So he doesn't require saying I'm his mentor. He's his mentor. I mentored him, and then he's mentoring others. That's the pay it forward model that I suggest you learn so that there's no dependency. And so he has his own content. He doesn't require my content. He developed his own content. That's what mentoring is. That's also how the 12-step program works. When you pick someone up at rock bottom, and you assist them with their sobriety, and then about 2-3 years later, they're able to also sponsor other people. And that's the real service and value in the give back portion of a 12-step program. And I mean, that's really where it begins, is that when you're at rock bottom and you actually are humble enough to reach out for someone, there are people there to assist you. In that program, the hand up method is always there, and they will say, keep coming back, because there is no judgment in those rooms, because people will go out and they'll relapse, they'll go out and they'll crash. And so that sponsor, mentor, protege process is available 24/7 in all the 12-step programs. That's one of the greatest mentoring programs. There's no fee to it. The doors are always open, and you're always welcome. And that's where I learned some of my greatest recovery was in that first year, where I was really just so setting my ass in that chair, drinking the worst fucking coffee I've ever drank in a styrofoam cup. I mean, it was so weak and with powdered cream, but it never tasted so good. I've never forgotten the taste of those plastic coffee containers that set on the urns that set on the top of an urn with the powdered carnation cream, the little styrofoam 6-ounce cups with the stir stick. I mean, I still romance the taste of that bad coffee, and that's really where I started to develop the skills that I have today. So when you are a mentor, there's a certain level of obligation that you have. And that obligation is to show up. That obligation is to not let your mentorees piss you off. That your obligation is to not take it personal. Your obligation is to be able to give them your best effort, not a half-assed effort, but your best effort, because your best effort, and see, here's some of my best mentorees. Here's another one. Barbara Williams. I started coaching Barbara in 1999 when she was going through a lot of challenges. Barbara is the poster girl for overcoming challenges. Barbara went on to be one of the top dog trainers in the world. Now, Joe DiBianca is also a dog whisperer. Barbara Williams is unequivocally a top-tier dog trainer. She specializes in schnauzers. I knew Barbara in the network marketing world back in 1999. It seems like 1,000 years ago. And Barbara just rehired me last year. I'm still coaching her. She came back for a little dose of DNA, and it's not like she needed it, she deserved it. And so once again, here's one of my clients that's on one of my Facebook Lives, like 22 years later. I mean, that's what mentoring is when you start to develop those long-term relationships where you're able to relate to people from all walks of life. You're able to be there with people. You're able to hear what they mean. One of my clients just sent me a message. I hadn't heard from her in 3 years, and she let me know that she sold 12 houses last year in the pandemic, and she has 5 under contract in the first 2 months of this year with a goal to close 40 transactions this year, and wanted to know if I'd speak in her city. I mean, once again, I haven't heard from this woman in 2 years, and you have no idea the impact you have on people when you show up consistently 7 days a week, without excuses. You tell people not what they want to hear, but what they require hearing. I won't tell anyone what they want to hear, but I'll tell them what I feel they can handle. And some people can't handle the truth, and so I've learned to pull back and give it to them in doses, and then as they're available, then I offer it. And some of them are able to receive it, and some aren't. And it's not my responsibility who is and isn't. My responsibility is to be there for when I say I'm going to be there and offer my best. Not some half-assed effort, not being overwhelmed, not telling anyone how overwhelmed I am, but telling them exactly what I feel is going to give them the best insight. Because some people can't handle it, and there's certain things I know that you just can't say to people because they're not ready. This is why there's a repetition and experience that you're required to learn, because you can't just fire hose someone, and you can't tell them you can't tell someone what to do. You offer them suggestions, insight, wisdom. And as you're in that space, you can create long-term relationships with people. I mean, long-term relationships of relationships that will last your lifetime. People look back and say, oh my God, I remember him back in the day. Everyone, Maureen Trainer is on, Maureen Trainer Politi. I want to really give Maureen a shout out. Maureen has been through the big C a couple of times in the last 3 years. She has more courage than anyone I've met. So everyone, little prayer for Maureen today. Maureen, we love you. Thank you for being here on today's Facebook Live. That's Maureen Trainer Politi. Joe knows her. She's been through some challenges, and she has the courage to be here on today's Facebook Live. Love you, Maureen, and thank you for being my student and client over the last 4 years. You're an exceptional woman. Ryan Chris, good to see you here this afternoon. I saw Heather Vajan. I saw Carla Vilches. Carla has also seen me speak many times. Many of you are coaching right now, and I see Nicole Hawkinson on the line today. Mark Saunders, good to see you. Many of you have gone out. I coach you, and you've gone out and you've become exceptional coaches. You've become exceptional facilitators, leaders, and mentors. And I'm so proud of all of you. Kate Grace, I'm so proud of you for starting your group. I mean, that's really what it's about. Kate has a group, a Let Go group. Matt Smith has a Mastering the Tides group that I assisted him to start, a recovery group. Julia, good to see you this afternoon in my hometown of Kansas City, Missouri. Love all of you. It's so good to be here with you this beautiful day. Julia, is it cold in Kansas City? Because where I live here in California, it's like summer. So I know I'm your homie from your hometown. Yvonne, how are you today? So good to see you this afternoon. I'm watching people walk their dogs in shorts right outside my door. Kate, I'm so proud of you for starting the Let Go group. Giovanni, good to see you, my young superstar. Giovanni met me when he was 18 years old back in the day or something like that, wasn't it, Giovanni? I mean, it's amazing how long it was back there. There's one man that shows up on Facebook Lives. His name is Mike Accurso. Joe DiBianca's met him. I met Joe. Remember we dined with Mike at Grozzo's? So Michael Accurso was a busboy in a 5-star restaurant when I was 22. He went on to be a multiple 6-figure income earner. There's another gentleman I met in a restaurant called Il Fornaio in Sacramento, California in 1997. I sponsored him to network marketing business, and he now lives in Whitefish, Montana. He's a multiple 6-figure income earner. He travels the world, hunts and fishes. He was my very first millionaire apprentice, Sean Crum. He fixed and flipped a couple houses with me. He rehabbed houses, and he still shows up on my Facebook Lives every once in a while. I went skiing with him once. The dude's a triple black diamond skier. He goes off cliffs and does helicopter skiing. I once watched him go underneath a yellow taped off situation over a cliff. I'm like, whoa. Now I'm a good skier, but not that good. So that was a very interesting moment. But I want to thank all of you for being here on today's Facebook Live. So have a great afternoon, everyone. Joe DiBianca says that he is moving. Oh, my God. I did hear whispers, though, that Charleston, South Carolina. Now, I have the privilege of speaking in Charleston, South Carolina, and that brings a really good point here. In the year 2021, with everything that's going on in the world, you can still dream. Don't stop dreaming. Live where you want to live. Be who you want to be. Create what you want to create. And don't let the outer world affect your inner ability to dream. Have a great afternoon, everyone. I will be back here at 9 o'clock Pacific this evening on Tuesday afternoon, February 23rd. Have a great day.